on this computer. All right, so we are now recording. I'm going to start off by showing you guys a little bit about, actually, it's up to you guys. Do you guys want to go over a basic overview of the program first, or would you rather learn about the new updates? And you're all muted. So, you want to do basic overview or updates? Update is Richard Nixon fine?
I'm going to do updates.
Updates first? Okay. All right, so I'm going to screen share to a video that Trevor did that shows about the new updates. And then I have two other videos to show you. They're not too long as far as I remember. Yeah, this one's only 5 minutes. So it'll kind of go over what the updates are. As I said, I just got them myself, so I have not had time to play with them yet. But I do know that one of them is the photo stitch, and you guys are asking for, this is a picture I did on, this is on PE Design, but now that Floriani has it, I can also do it on Floriani. But this is all thread. And as you can see, John looks great because, you know, he's got contrast. Me, my skin color just goes right into my gown because I'm pretty much, you know, the same color. But it was a fun picture to make out of thread. And I've done quite a few already with thread. So I'm very excited to use this in Floriani. All right, so we're gonna go to share screen. Where is, there it is. Okay, so now you should be able to see this video. And I should be able to hit play.
I don't hear anything.
Oh, can you guys not hear it?
I can't hear it.
Okay. I wonder if I can add subtitles. Oh. Apparently won't let me just add subtitles. All right, so I'm just gonna show quickly then through the slides and I will narrate. So it's a new program called, or built in on the FTCU called Photo 2 Stitches. And as you can see, there's an adorable picture of a kiddo here that he's a very funny face. Let's see if I can, here, what I'll do is I will just hit play and let this go through and I'll narrate over. So he's saying you select it and it brings you through almost like a wizard and it gives you your photo. Now I know we have a customer who had used PE Design to do this, where she took pictures of cats and dogs and pets and would turn them into tote bags for people. Does it on Etsy and actually makes a lot of money doing this. So as you can see, it's pretty easy. And the way it stitches out a little funny where it does all these like longer stitches all throughout the project. And it is very lengthy. It takes a little while. My wedding photo, I think, took me 6 hours or so. That's Trevor's wife, by the way. All right, so that was the photo stitch update. Oh, a new thing is he's pointing to the stitch counter up top. That is a new addition. So it actually will count how many stitches you have throughout the design. If you're playing a stitch simulation, it'll actually show you what to go through. There's also a new tool to allow you to scroll through the sequence view, so your stitch colors, and a new button to do a color match. So if you have yours set in Floriani and you want to switch to Madeira thread colors, you can hit that and it'll automatically switch all your colors over to that thread palette and give you a thread chart so you can print that off and have your different colors. He's talking about another new software called Floriani Creative. And it looks like it's actually a regular image editing program that's now part of Floriani. Not sure if this is separate or not. But this is a new program that Rick was telling me about where it's kind of like a basic Photoshop. I'm not sure if this is included or if it's a separate purchase, but it's a simple image editing program, so you can use that to clean up or change photos to then be used in the Photo Stitch or in Floriani in general. So this is a new thing. If you have any image editing programs, you may not need this. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Here we go, the Floriani Rainbow. This is the thing I'm excited about. There. This may be a separate program. I know what Floriani has been doing is adding in a lot of new programs that are separate purchase that add in, like the Floriani lettering and the Sketch-a-Stitch, I believe it's called. And I think that's what this rainbow is. Yeah, so it is a separate purchase software that will add into your Floriani program that you can do an ombre effect to your stitches, which is a really cool ability. So that's kind of the basic of that video. I'm going to stop sharing there just because it's going to be hard to see with all the sound. It's weird because I got that to work before, so I don't know why I didn't this time, but oh well. So yeah, there's two new programs that look like are an add-on program, which is the Floriani Rainbow. And if you have Floriani, you can use it as an add-on software to add into your Floriani program or purchase it separate to use it as a separate program if you don't have it. So it's the same idea as the Floriani lettering, which added a bunch more lettering options and fonts and monograms, or the Sketch-a-Stitch, which is one where you literally just sketched on the screen. One more person adding on. There we go. So you could sketch right on the screen and then it would automatically turn it into stitches, which was pretty cool. At least I think so. I tried it a couple times. I've not yet stitched it out, but I have an old tablet that I can sketch on. You can also just draw with your mouse. All right, so that's kind of the new products and the new things that are added in automatically. I'm going to do a screen share once again and show you the Floriani program. All right, here's our happy Floriani. Now you may notice that you have a little box. It may turn your zoom into kind of these little side boxes, which you can move out of the way if you need to. I'm trying to see if I can not block. Let's see, I'm gonna hide my thumbnail. There we are. Okay, so here's our Floriani screen. Mine may look different.
I can't see the Floriani screen.
Say that again?
I can't see the, oh, there it is. Now I can see it.
Okay, good. So mine may look different than yours because I have Total Quilter as well on my computer. And if you have that program, it will roll it into your Floriani. Same thing with any of those other add-on programs that we were talking about, which is really nice because then I don't have to, maybe I'm doing an embroidery design and I want to quilt around it. I can actually do that all in one program instead of designing the embroidery design in Floriani and then having to import it over to my Total Quilter. So everything's all built together, which makes it really easy. So the first thing I want to show you guys is how to set your preferences on this. Now, again, if anyone has any questions at any specific point, feel free to ask. You know, and if I don't respond, feel free to ask again. I may not have heard you. I like to hear myself talk, so, you know. So as you can see, there is a ridiculous amount of icons. I'm going to go over the ones that are only Floriani. And mine may be in a different order than yours as well. I have a new computer that has a smaller screen resolution, so I moved around my icons. I'm gonna go in the order that I remember them being on my computer. So, or on the regular program. So I may do it slightly out of order. Hopefully I'll be able to keep them in order. But the first button I want to show you is this little blue gear. And when you hover over it, it says Program Preferences. If I click on it, it will open up my preferences. What I always recommend is your default style you can leave as normal, but your default save format, you want to put your preferred machine. So in my case, I'm going to do the Baby Lock Brother Bernina PES version 9. And then I'm going to auto save my WAF format and auto save machine format. So the reason why we do that is, let's say I go to save my design. I make a cute heart applique and I'm really excited about doing it. And I hit File, Save As, and I save it as, let's say, that PES design. It'll also save the working file, which is that WAF. The WAF actually stands for Walter Floriani. I don't remember his middle name, but that's actually his initials. But I like to remember it as working as file. So that way you remember that, oh, that's my working file. So if I stitch out that heart applique and I really don't like the fact that it's a satin stitch as that final stitch and I want to change the stitch type, I can open up the WAF file and change that. Where if I just opened up the PES, I would not be able to. So always auto-save as both the WAF format and as your regular machine format when you are done doing something. The hoop bracket location doesn't matter unless you're using a multi-needle only. Color match on loading, that one, oh, just a weird pop-up for a second, sorry. Color match on loading, that's if you want to open up a design and have it automatically turn into one of these lovely thread charts. I have Floriani Poly checked off because I use mostly Floriani. I do have some other thread brands that I have laying around in my house, but for the most part, I use Floriani. But you could also change this to, you know, Madeira, Marathon, you know, Gutermann, anything that you prefer personally. And then when you open up your design, you could then just hit print and print off a full color chart so you know what colors are needed. Which when you get into that photo stitch part of your software, I recommend printing out a thread chart, because trying to look at those colors and try to figure out, you know, slightly gray, slightly more gray, slightly less gray, without the color numbers is very difficult. The other icon that you want to check off on this first page is Convert to Outlines on Open. What that means is if you are opening up a design, let's say a purchase design or an embroidery design that you already had, it will sense where the outlines are and allow you to do further editing than you would be if you don't have that checked off. So just leave it checked off. Excuse me. The only other thing that I would change on here is under environment, is your metric to inches. And whenever you update, you will have to go through and re-click all this stuff off. So if you already have this set now and you have not updated to the new version of Floriani, you will have to go back and redo all of this. And view is another one. So there's this show crosshair in input mode. I'm going to show you what that is. So I'm going to close this for a second. So my pencil tool, when I go to draw, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but there's this big crosshair that goes across my screen. I can use this to line up with my lines and start drawing and kind of, you know, line this up perfectly. But if I don't want to use this and I find that to be too busy, I can go up to my gear, go into view, and unclick that. I personally find it distracting. A lot of other people prefer it. So this is again why it's called preferences, because you set it the way you prefer. All right, so I'm gonna hit okay. And that's pretty much the main preferences. There's a lot of other things in here, like if I go to grid, I can actually set the size of my grid, which I have set to 1/4 inch, and the major is every 8, so it's every 2 inches. But you can go through here. There's some total quilter specific ones too. You know, in digitizing, a lot of these are very advanced settings that usually I don't even need to mess with. The fonts, oop, my thing is taking forever to load. There it goes. I can actually mark some of my fonts as favorites, or if I have a really weird font in here that I know I'm never gonna use, like there's one that has little ghosts. I'm not sure where that one is. Oh, there's Ghostly. I can actually disable it so it doesn't pop up on my font list anymore when I'm doing letters. So if you have a few fonts that you think are the ugliest thing in creation, you can disable them. And you can also mark ones you use all the time as favorites so they actually pop up as your favorites. Okay. So other things to know about the program. Oops, as I accidentally click on the screen. The first button up here is new. It's the same idea as Microsoft Word, where it has a little page to open up a new background. There's open, so you can open up a design. So, you know, I could click on this and go into, let's say, desktop, design files. Sure, we'll go into amazing designs. I'm just gonna click on one. I can open up whatever file type. And of course, there's no designs in that folder. Oh, I know why, because I deleted them all. There we go. And I can open up that file. It takes a moment and it'll pop up on my screen. Eventually. My computer is a little slow at the moment, don't mind it. There it goes. Okay, so I can open up any design that I've purchased that I have on my computer. I can open it up from a USB. I can open it up from saving it right on my computer or anything like that. After that is save. So this is where you would click to save your file. So if you made any changes to this, we have all right, we have a new person joining us. So if I had any things I wanted to save, any changes, I can just hit save. Batch converter is such a cool button. Let's say you went from a Viking to a Brother machine. I can click on this batch converter. I can open up my source folder, which I'll hit those three little dots, and I can go into wherever I keep that folder, or let's say it's on a USB. Tell it where I want the folder to go, so I can say, you know, save in source folder if I wanted to. I can include subdirectories, which means, let's say it's I need a good design, and then below that it's, you know, PES, and it's quilt block 4-inch, quilt block 8-inch. It'll save all those same folders. And then I can go, let's say from the Huss Viking file right into my PES and click convert, and every file in there that is a Huss file will now be converted to a PES. So I think that's fantastic. If, you know, maybe you found a really cool CD that's really old, that's a Viking CD, and all it comes with is those Huss files, you can convert it. Or maybe your friend wants to share designs with you, or again, you purchased an old machine that had those design types. Like I came from Viking and now use Brother and Baby Lock. So now I can convert all my old Viking files over. So I love this batch converter. And if you scroll down, you'll also notice that there's other file types on here. Now, not all of them are perfect, but you notice that there's a Pro Stitcher button? How cool is that? That means I can take any Pro Stitcher files or anything for quilting and turn them into regular embroidery. So maybe you are a part of the Baby Lock quilting community and they have free Pro Stitcher files available for people to download for those who have Pro Stitcher and Pro Stitcher software. Well, guess what? You don't need Pro Stitcher to use them. You can just convert them right in this program, which I have done before, and now I can use those to do edge-to-edge quilting on my embroidery machine without any work. I can also convert AI files on here to FCM files for my scan and cut, or SVG files to FCM for my scan and cut. So if I have the old scan and cut one that only reads FCM files, but I downloaded all these cute purchasable SVG files or free SVG files, I can convert them right in here. I can also convert images and things like that as well. So maybe, you know, you need to upload something to Facebook. You're super excited about sharing a picture, but it's a PNG and Facebook doesn't take it. You could even use this to convert that. So don't take for granted that batch converter. It is a fantastic little button. So the print button here, if I click on that, that brings me into a new screen where it can give me a print preview. This is one of my other favorite buttons. I use this a lot for even printing out a template. Maybe I'm nervous that the design isn't gonna look good on maybe I'm doing an apron and I wanna see if this design is even really gonna fit or if it's gonna look good. I can print this off and see. And as you can tell from this second page here, it gives me a full color chart. So maybe you lost your thread color chart, you maybe had an Anita Good Design VIP club, and you had that huge catalog, but you can't find it anywhere, that's okay. You can open up any of these designs and print off your thread chart right here. And as you can tell, all of these are Floriani. Well, actually, you probably can't tell because it's teeny tiny. There it is. These are all converted to the Floriani thread colors. So all I have to do is go into my wall of thread and see if I have these colors. Or you can take your Floriani app, which yes, there is a cell phone app, and I can say, well, I have all of these, but I don't have pink or the storm color, and put it into your app shopping list, and then go to the store and pick up these thread colors. Now under settings, you can change what this says. So I can print actual size, I can print the color analysis, I could even print notes. So if you wrote any notes into the design, this is where it would print off. I can also print everything in one page where it'll condense everything. I can show the crosshair. Now what that is, I'm gonna hit OK quickly to get out of this. That crosshair, there we go, is that thing that goes across the entire design. I can print that so I can see where the center of this design is, or I can check that off to get rid of it if you find that distracting. But usually for templates, it's a nice thing to have. Stitch mode you will have to print off stitches, but I can also print off artwork. So if I want to print off, let's say, you know, a picture of a SVG file that I want to cut out on my scan and cut so I can see what that looks like, I can even open up that SVG file on here, click artwork mode, and print off a picture of that too. It also will remove the jump stitches in your print preview. The Floriani cat, if you click on that, is actually a little cat that pops up. There it is. It's just like the snowman, except it has little ears and a tail. So if you have the Brother Baby Lock and you're using the snowman, you can always use this cat tool to see how it's gonna line up as well. Brother and Baby Lock's machines will not scan in the cat. They don't recognize it, but you can stick your snowman sticker right on top of your template, on top of that cat, and line it up with the crosshairs, and then remove this whole template sheet before doing your design. So it's just one other way to line up your designs in your machine. All right, and then I can hit close when I'm all set, and it'll bring me back to my regular screen. Now, after that, you have these three lovely buttons. Our cut button, which is, you have something selected, it literally will just cut it out. Copy. So if I have a heart and want to copy and put another heart on the other side, I can do that. I got to figure out where I put my shapes though. There they are. I'm just going to throw a quick circle on here. So I can take this circle, which of course is somewhere in here. There it is. And I can copy and paste, and it'll put in a second circle. So maybe if I wanted to do that with snowflakes, I could throw a whole bunch of snowflakes around Santa. And I can also hit cut up here to remove them. These two arrows are undo and redo. And if any of you have ever watched any of the Floriani videos with Kathy Quinn, she always says that undo is your friend with that good old Southern accent. So just remember, undo is your friend, and you'll be fine. After that, this little box right here that is in gold, this is your properties. If it is not in gold, your properties box goes away. That's a very scary moment. I've been in many classes with you guys where you're like, my properties box is gone, what do I do? Not a big deal, just click that box right next to your gear and boom, it's back. And it's a very easy button to click on and off, so don't worry. This button here that has the percentage, that is the amount of zoom you have. So it'll tell you if you are 100% zoomed, like I can actually do to fit, which at the moment is pretty small. I can go to 100%, which will be too big, and so on. I can also zoom by using my magnifying glass, which I gotta figure out where I moved it to. It's usually over on the left side of your screen. I moved mine recently. But if you double left click on your magnifying glass, it'll also zoom to fit. After that, that letter F is actually to get to your club. So if you want to go there and watch any of the lovely club videos, you can get on there and watch tutorials, webinars, You can find free designs if you own Floriani FTCU. Every month you get a little array of free designs, and you can even download some of the previous designs there as well. And they started giving away designs, I don't know, 2000, maybe 12 or 13. It was a while ago, and you can download all of those. So you'll have a ton of designs to use by just going on the club. I highly recommend signing up for the club if you've not. It's also great to put in your serial numbers. So that way, if you lose your CD and you get a new computer, your serial numbers are all recorded in the club, and you can just copy and paste them right into your program. So that way you can, you know, your serial number is what you use to access Floriani. Without that, you'll only be in a demo version. So it's a great other place to put those serial numbers. All right, so I moved around a bunch of stuff. Usually after this are these little buttons here, where the slow redraw is this kind of thing here. So if I turn this off, that little colored bar goes away. The slow redraw now has your stitch count. This is one of the updates. And it allows you to hit play, and it'll show you how it's gonna stitch and what order it's gonna stitch in. The little blue bar next to it, I can speed it up. This is apparently a very long design. But it's nice to know what order something stitches in. Maybe it's a quilting design and you only want to do a section of it and you're not sure what starts first and what starts last. You can watch the order. Or maybe you're concerned that it's going to be too close when it stitches this way or that way. You can still just click this and watch the order it stitches in. But that's what that slow redraw is. After this, you have your line drawing tools. I typically use the artwork tool to draw in. I'm just going to close this and get to the end so we have our sand on there again. I typically use the pencil because I like to draw in artwork mode and edit it in artwork mode first and then turn it into stitches, where the following button you can actually draw in stitches. So that means as you're drawing, it automatically turns it into stitches. The reason why I like this pencil tool best, there we go, is let's say I'm drawing a circle. Now I can left click to add these points in, and to give it a natural curve, I can hit Control and hold Control as I'm hitting that and kind of, you know, bring my shape together. To close the shape, on the left-hand side is this little close shape key. It's got like a little eyeball on on half of a circle, it looks like. And if I click that, it'll automatically close my shape. Now that shape is pretty erratic, right? It doesn't look that nice. I can go in here and edit the artwork so it looks really clean before adding stitches. Typically your edit artwork tool, your edit shape tool is on the left-hand side. I moved mine. It looks like this little red arrow here. And if you hover over it, it says shape, edit outlines, inclinations, entry, and exit. If I click that, my line turns pink. And now I can right click on some of these buttons and hit smooth. There we go. I have a new computer, so I'm still figuring out where those buttons are. And I can slowly go around. I can even delete points and really alter what this is. So that way, you know, if this is the shape that I wanted, now I can turn this, let me get out of my shape tool. I can now turn this into stitches by, let's do a standard fill. And there we go, now this is stitches. So I like to do artwork first and then turn this into embroidery after. This is preference based, so you may find that you prefer just to do it right in stitches. Everyone is different, so it's, again, this is why this program's so great, because there's so many different ways to do it that every person is pretty much has their needs met. After that button is this little pencil with the circle and square. You've already seen me use it a couple times. These add in shapes, so I can put in a square, a circle, a triangle, and I can even click custom shape as soon as it opens up. Come on, there it goes. And there's a ton of shapes like this that I can use. I can also click my folder and go into Easy Art. And in Easy Art, it's a bunch of fancier like things as soon as mine loads. Looks like it's frozen. Oh, there it goes. And Easy Art has some really cool letters. Oh, that's just the sound of someone running over the cones in front of our house. All right, so I'm gonna hit the letter C. And that'll load into my screen. I'm actually gonna remove Mr. Santa here. Just, come on, computer. Okay, so I'm gonna take this letter C and I'm actually gonna split it. So what I'm gonna do is actually go to my little knife tool here. Just draw a little split line and right click. And now my C should be divided in half. So what I could do is take this and, I don't know, I could leave it that open. I could move it a little bit if I wanted to. But I could take other letters, which I'm going to show you how to use the lettering tool in a moment, and actually write my name. And do a whole divided letter just using some of the built-in functions. Now, I don't know if I'm supposed to like actually put in the first letter of my name. Ooh, I'm still in font. Let me go back to my cursor. I don't know if I'm supposed to include the C when I write my name again in between, but we're just gonna leave it there for now. And I could click on this letter C and add a fancy fill, or I could do a lace stitch, which of course it's showing it in white, which is the worst thread color. Let's turn this to orange. And this one as well. And then one of the other buttons that's on the left-hand side is your 3D key, which will show you what this actually looks like. So you could take a design and split it. This is a pretty rough version of that. But there's a lot that can be done with those built-in shapes. I can't see my sequence view. And of course, my computer's being glitchy, not letting me bring it back up. Oh well, we can just turn off the properties if we want to see the sequence view again. Okay, so this button is a smart fill tool. I am not sure if this is a new button or one that is specifically new, but I can click on a shape and it'll automatically fill it. I don't remember this key being on here, so I think this is a new one. But I can take an existing area and turn it into a normal fill. So instead of clicking the buttons, the stars to fill, I can also use that. After that should be, I think, these buttons. So you have your wizard key. A lot of these other buttons are specific to the quilting program, so I'm not going to go over them. But we have our little wizard hat. This you can do auto crosswork, auto SVG file, so it'll bring it in as an auto artwork, auto embroidery, and a few others. I do not like the auto embroidery one, the wizard, embroidery wizard, because it doesn't do a nice job. The auto artwork I'll use often though. Let's see if I can find one. Oh, there's a whole bunch that they provided. So I'm gonna click on this image here, and it's just a regular JPEG, as you can see, .jpg. I'm gonna hit next, and I'm not gonna change the size or bother with any of that. The colors here are fine. Hit next. I could fill in this background area with white, but I'm not gonna check that off, I don't need to. I'm gonna hit finish. And it automatically adds it to my screen. Now I still have my letter C, which I'm gonna remove. So you know it's a vector file or an artwork if it shows up in your sequence view on the right. If you have an image on here that doesn't show up on your sequence view, that means you have it as a background. But I could go in here and take the wings, and I could do what's called a radial satin, which does, let me double click on my magnifying glass here, you guys can see it. And I could go down, oh, where is his antenna? There it is, his antenna, and I could do an auto satin. And these buttons will automatically fill them up. Now, for some reason, his wing is black, so we're going to turn it into a pretty blue. And I'm actually going to change the density a little bit on this. So now when I remove the artwork, so I can actually just delete this old artwork here, I have this really cool looking butterfly. And that's just using some of the built-in regular images. So if you know you want an embroidery of a heart or a balloon and you can't find a pre-done design, a lot of times you can take a regular image that you find on one of those freeware image sites and things like that, and turn it into artwork right on Floriani with the artwork wizard, and then turn it into embroidery, and it looks really cool. We'll leave our butterfly there for a moment. All right, where was I? So a lot of these don't appear on yours, because I know like all these Trapunto blocks aren't there. There's an auto lock stitches. This I believe is also on the quilting program, but if you see that, that will automatically apply a tie-in or tie-off. And that's something too, I can click on my butterfly wing and many times do a tie-in and tie-off in my properties. After that, you probably have these little folders here. These are other ways to get into our custom shapes, our backdrops library, or artwork library. This was actually taken from the backdrop library, but you can open up, and I'll show you a difference in the backdrops. If I open up a backdrop, I'm going to move my embroidery out of the way. I cannot move it or edit it. And if I zoom really far into my backdrop, see how these lines get fuzzy? That's the difference between an artwork and a JPEG or a regular image. It doesn't always have a smooth line. So I could take my pencil tool and I could sit and trace around this entire design. Now, if you were the person who's going to be doing logos, this doesn't sound fun, but many times this is what you have to do with a busy logo is you sit there and you just trace around. Like maybe I want the butterfly wings to be connected here. And I can always go back and edit this as you saw. But I can completely go around and trace and then hit my close shape tool and there's the wings. It's not as time consuming as you may think. And for any busy design that's a little bit more difficult, I do suggest using it as a background image and tracing it in because you'll have more control than if it was a vector. So to remove this as a background image, I can also click this little toggle view backdrop. It looks like a little picture of mountains on your left-hand side, and I can click that to remove it. To open up a backdrop another way instead of using the library is on your left-hand side, there's that same picture of mountains, and you can use that to open up a new one or bring back the design that you had before. So after that, we have our, of course I have a pop-up. We have a buttonhole. I have seen one customer total ever use the buttonhole design. And that's because she was making, so I just draw my shape and it'll automatically turn this into a buttonhole. Ooh, not a very good one. Possibly because I have this gigantically large. But there was one customer who, oh, I know why. I have it drawn in the wrong angle. Oh, no, I don't. Why isn't it not working then? That is a seriously ugly buttonhole. Well, anyway, the buttonholes are specific if you want to make an odd size buttonhole. Actually, I've seen two customers use them. One of them was doing a raffle at her quilt guild, and she made a little buttonhole on the top of a jar and added some decoration. And that way they could cut the little hole out and put raffle tickets in the jars. And that was a great idea. The other one is a customer who makes car seat covers out of fleece, and she made a huge buttonhole in this so she could do it all on her embroidery machine, because the seat belt hole that it needed to be for the car seat was too large that then her machine could do, and even too large for the built-in embroidery designs inside her machine. So, and you can also change the type. Like I could do a rounded end. I have a feeling mine's just being glitchy because it, you know, wants to not be shown off. But usually you can do some really, yeah, it's just being glitchy. I might be able to change the density. Oh, no, I just made the density bigger. But you can play with this, and a lot of times go in there and you may need to edit the stitches to make each of these pop up if you're making a gigantic buttonhole. But that's the buttonhole key. I admit I don't use it very often. After that, there is a symbol key. You guys do not have the second clover, but the symbol is really cool. So let's say you wanted to add those snowflakes. These are all pre-digitized designs that are built in. Oh, hold on, I'm clicking all the wrong buttons. There we go. I keep right-clicking on this computer. Here we go, snowflakes. So I left-click, and I drag on my screen, and there's a snowflake as soon as it loads. I'm gonna try closing that background video. Maybe that'll help. Nope, still loading. There it goes. And then I could add in a smaller one. And I can keep adding these snowflakes in by just drawing them with that symbol key. And in a future class, I can actually show you guys how to create your own little design and add it to the symbols list. You can actually add in your own custom text, your own custom symbols, and even your own custom motif stitches by drawing them in the screen. So that's something we'll go over in a future class. But these symbols are really cool. I use them a lot, especially for the star. There's a star in here and the snowflakes. Somewhere in here is the star. I think there's maybe a heart. Yeah, there's a heart. But there's a ton of them. There's a star. I like the way the star is digitized. Once it loads, the way that they have it split, there you go. It looks really nice. So I do like to use the Starlight a lot when I'm doing designs of like, you know, a night scene or something like that. But these are really easy to put in, and then you don't have to sit there and add the stitches to them. Okay, so next, I apparently have some of mine completely out of order, but I believe we're in the next line now, which is our text. So with text, there's a lot you can do. If you click on the T, and you click on the regular T below that, that gives you a straight line text, which is what I just showed you before. So I'm going to add that in again. The coolest thing about this program, I'm going to put in my name again, is that I can actually, oh, hold on, get my sequence view. I can actually use the built-in fonts on this program. I can add purchase fonts that I bought, let's say on OESD or from Anita Good Design or whatever other company. There is actually a way to add them into this program. And I can also use Truetype fonts. Now, Truetype fonts are any of those downloaded fonts that you got off of 1000fonts.com or freefonts.com or any of those. And there is a ridiculous amount of free fonts that you can find. Let's see if I can find one that's a little unique. Ink free. Let's see what that one looks like. So if you're looking for a specific font type and you just cannot find anything out there, you can turn your Truetype fonts that you can get for free right into fonts in this program. And I've had people who wanted their name in Harry Potter font, which that's really hard to find pre-digitized, you know, or futuristic Star Trek font. Says a little bit about the people I hang out with. They're all nerds, not a bad thing. But, you know, you can find free fonts online that look like that, and then just click that Truetype font button, pick your font, and hit apply. Not all fonts are perfect, though. You'll sometimes find, I don't know if I have one on here that's going to be, let's see if that one will work. Some of them get a little glitchy. Like if they're, actually that one looks really nice. I won't be able to find a glitchy one for you, because that's just how that works. Oh, here we go, parchment. That's a ridiculous one. Sometimes they'll be too busy, or they'll have cute little shapes on them, and it'll be too much for the program. So it'll do some funny things with the stitching. So always have a backup font in mind. And this is going to take forever to load, of course. But the Truetype fonts is probably one of my favorites, especially when a lot of people who ask me to do embroidery for them, or if I'm making a quilt, I may want to theme the quilt label to what the quilt is. Let's say it's a, I don't know, a 19th century styled quilt. You know, I'm using reproduction fabrics. I could do a font that kind of looks like Civil War fonts, or maybe it's a 1920s font. I could do like an Art Deco font, or a 1920s quilt, I mean. So there's a lot you can do with the Truetype fonts. I can also change the size in here. I can change the align to be center if I have multiple lines of words, or all the way to the left or all the way to the right, just like you would in Microsoft Word. This is still loading, so I'm going to talk while it's loading. Now, the other thing with the fonts in here is not only can you do regular satin stitching, but if it allowed me to click on the star over here, I could actually change the font from a satin stitch to a different type of fill. This is very important if you're doing large letters. Let's say I want my initials, which is now CFK, on the back of a jacket, which my husband, by the way, reminded me that my initials backwards is KFC, so that's your laugh for the day. But if I did a satin stitch and I had these huge, 6-inch letters, the satin stitch would actually get caught and could get torn out of them. They do not recommend a satin stitch being too large. So I can turn it into a different type of fill, which will give multiple stitches for each of the threads and even give it a very cool effect. And I won't have to worry about it. I won't have to worry about it getting damaged. All right, I may actually have to exit out of the program. Hold on one second, guys. Let me reload. Hold on, my program's all frozen. Well, while we're taking a short break for me to reload my program, does anyone have any questions about what I went through so far, or are your brains kind of melted?
I wondered if you could, well, you can't do it now because your computer is reloading, but I missed the part with the knife. And I also wanted to know what are those little letters next to the fonts? They're B for O for outline, B for something else.
Oh, yes. So of course it's at work, but I do have a list of what all of those mean. So O is outline, B is block font, C is created font, S is script. If it says 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, or any of those, it's a micro font or a tiny font.
Where I just have to know that? Is that,
if you go into the manual, it does actually say, so under help, there is a button to go to the manual, and you can actually get a list of what all those different icons mean.
I couldn't find it, but I'll go and look, yeah.
There's also on the club website is a letter, it's like a font book, I think they call it, and it actually has all of the fonts that they include in their program and what those different symbols mean. I found personally it was easier to get the one online than the one through Floriani because it was easier to print. All right, supposedly Floriani's back up, so we're going to try to share the screen again and I can show you. There we go. So the knife I haven't gone over yet. We'll go over that in a second. Oh, I reset all my icons. Darn it. All right, so I guess I'll have to reset all my icons at another later date. That's annoying. Darn you, Floriani. Did it reset my preferences too? Oh, wow. All right, so there's that parchment font. That does look awful. So when you go into your normal fonts, I'm going to move my sequence view down. There's all these different types of kind of little icons. So BL is block, 60 is micro font, which means fonts that are specifically digitized to be tiny and to work with the 60 weight micro thread or embellished thread that we carry at the store. O is outline.
It is grayed out.
SC is script. AP is applique.
So you can't get in.
This
Yeah, you got to follow back.
little F one, I don't remember what that one is. I think it's a created one, but I don't remember creating a font. I may have. HW is handwriting. Yeah, I think this is a created one, the F. It used to be a C for created, but they change it. RN is a run font. Don't think there's any other types. I think I covered all of the icons. Yeah, I think that's all the icons. So worst case, if you have a question with one of those icons and what they mean, you can always ask me, you know, send me an email and say, what does this mean? And I'll let you know because I have them all memorized.
Great, thank you.
No problem. Well, now that my icons are back in order and not all out of order like I had them before, I can continue going in order. The other thing with text that we can do is you can also do a circle. So if I click on that, and I got to click on my screen here, I can write an upper part and a lower part. I've used this for patches before, you know, like, let's see. I used to make these cute little merit badges that I made, and I didn't really sell a lot of them, so I stopped, but they were adult gold star patches. So for an example, this one says adult merit badge, had coffee today. And then in the middle, I took the text here and I put a star and just made a simple patch and, you know, threw them on Etsy. But it was a fun thing. So the circles are great because you can make them smaller. Oops, missed it. Come on, there it is. I can make the smaller or larger. I can adjust the size of the lettering by just going up. There's 3 little dots that you can use to adjust. So this one adjusts the lettering size. So I can make this a little bigger, smaller. And then there's a little one kind of at the end of your first sentence. And I can take this and drag the letters out or in. So kind of change the spacing. So circles have a lot of things you can do with them. But let's say you need just this top line. I'm going to turn off my properties for a moment. Besides doing a circle, I can also do a path. Vertical is exactly what it means. It just means align vertically. It's the same idea as a horizontal text, so I'm not going to show you guys that one since we still have a lot to go over, and we've already been at this for an hour. And so far, you guys haven't lit your computers on fire and thrown them at me. Luckily, I'm too far away for you guys to do that. But our path font, if I click on that A, I have all these paths to choose from. I use this all the time for this literally simple path because I love to have a slight, you know, kind of grade to my, you know, if I'm doing maybe a flower below, you know, I could write hello spring or something cute like that. And it just does that slight curve. And I love that effect. You know, I think it's really pretty. So that's what the path is for. Now, if I do this and I go, you know what, this is the stupidest path I've ever done, I can right click on my font and go into text paths and choose something different. I can go really wild and do this crazy swirl. And it'll take what I already have on there and change the path. So it's something really fun to play with. You can make some really unique ways to put people's names on things, or maybe it goes vertical. Like I did a snack bag for Kenneth when he was really little. And I learned my lesson about making him things because within one day he already lost it. But I had his name sideways along a whole bunch of, I forget what was on there, maybe dinosaurs. And it made his name look like it was going down the back of the dinosaur. So it's something cool that you can do right in the program with fonts. After the A here is this M. This is the Monogram Designer. So if I click on that and then click on my screen, I can type in my letters. So again, my initials, in this case, it needs to be CKF. And I can choose my font. Now, if you notice, some of these fonts have these little tents around them with decoration. Some of them do not. The ones that show the little decoration around them give you the option of decor. So I can choose Monogram 1 and choose, let's say, that decor and hit apply. And that is super tiny. to go into my cursor here and make this a little larger so you can see it. But there we go. I can do some really nice monograms with just a couple clicks of the button. And I could even change the decor. Maybe now that I see it, I don't like it. I want to do maybe this thing. And there we go. It'll change it. So it's a pretty nice little program built in.
Okay.
All right, and then last, what's up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
How did you get to that monogram again real quick?
Oh, if you go into the letter T, that little pink T,
Yeah,
and there's an M that pops up.
Right in front of my face, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's one of the things that makes sense, M for monogram. I know usually they use the weirdest symbols for things, but in this case, that makes sense. I can also import Truetype font artwork. I use this, let's say I want to do the word apple, and I want to cut it out, you know, maybe on my scan and cut, or I want to use this for a different purpose, like add stitches. You know, this is now artwork. It's not stitches per se, but I could do it as, let's say, the cross stitch. That's going to do an outline. It may look a little weird. And I can, let me get rid of the Hello Spring here and show you guys this crazy, I'm going to remove my artwork now and show you. I was able to take this word, add the cross stitch design to it, and then I have this really cool cross stitch. So maybe you want a very specific thing with a font. Maybe you want to do a single applique with a letter, and you don't like the 5 applique fonts that Floriani comes with. That's fine. Let's find a cool font. I'm not going to look that hard for a cool font, though. I have a lot of fonts that I download. Yeah, that one looks nifty. Actually, no, that has an outline in it. Never mind, I lied. Let's do Chiller. It's close enough to Halloween, right? And I want to do the letter C, C for Chelsea, and also C for cookies. This is pretty small at the moment, so I can make this a little bit bigger. Now, I can make this bigger by dragging the arrows here on the corner, or in my properties, I can go to this transform key and type in the width with my maintain aspect ratio checked off. So let's say I want this 6 inches. Cool, there we go. Double click my magnifying glass. There it is. And on the bottom, I'm going to click the green applique grass, and it's going to turn this into an applique for me. So now I could put the letter C on everything I own, so that way everybody knows that it's mine. I mean, I can't put that on food in the fridge because I can't really embroider food, and my husband would probably eat it anyway. But now you kind of get an idea of how to take artwork and turn it into other things easily. We'll leave that on the screen for right now. This little section, these are really fun. Let me do a different design besides the letter C. Let's do, I'm going to use one of the escape tools again. Let's do this anchor. So let's say I want to take, as soon as it loads, oh, it's probably because I just drew a gigantic anchor. I'm going to click on this and make it a little smaller. Let's do a 3-inch anchor. So what I'm going to do is show you guys some of these customized buttons with different designs. So I can take this and do what's called a Fling Repeat, which in this case, it's doing small designs. But I can change this down. And it's going to fling a bunch of these onto my screen. Now this works if you're doing, let's say, a night sky and you want to just fling stars everywhere, or snowflakes, or in this case, anchors being thrown. I don't know. But you can kind of have fun with this. And it automatically digitizes it and just kind of flings them all over the screen. You can change your final template size and your minimum scale percentage and maximum scale percentage, and also minimum spacing. I usually have an auto rotate and color sort checked, even though this is one color in the case. But if you had a bunch of different colors, it would automatically sort them, so all the blues would be together, all the reds, etc. Next, this button here, the repeat design, this literally repeats it in a path. I use this when I'm doing patches, or maybe freestanding lace or bookmarks, or anything that you know, I'm doing on either a wash away stabilizer that I need a ton of, because I can also split the distance, as you can see a little bit, so that way they're not touching each other. When I do patches, like for example, the Cub Scouts will have me digitize a patch. I can lay out my size that I need my hoop to be and lay them all out on here with my repeat design. Or I can also do this on my machine. Both my 10 needle, my Valiant, and my Luminaire both have this button built into the machine too. But if you don't have that ability, you can certainly do it in this program. And I can even add more rows if I wanted to and make the most out of my hoop size. After that is this corners repeat. This is really cool. If you take some flowers, you can make them look really pretty. This is actually how we laid out our Quilter's Trek design. I can show you exactly what I mean, because I should have that on my computer. Row by row, there it is. So, nope. There it is. So what I did is I opened up this design and I was curious what it would look like being repeated into 4 squares. So I selected it and actually clicked that repeat button, and that's what showed me what this was gonna look like. I added in a little bit of space because I knew that there was gonna be some spacing. Oops, I'm doing that the wrong way. But that way I could take a design and lay it out and figure out what it's gonna look like as a quilt block. So that's a really cool design feature too, where if you know you're gonna do this embroidery, you could mirror it and repeat it and make some really interesting quilt block designs. And if you have not picked up this design, it is free at the store. So please do, it's super pretty. I'm only saying that because I made it. Some of the other fun things, let me throw in another simple design here. I'm gonna throw in a flower this time. Let's see. You know what, these stars will work. Okay, so I'm gonna, oops, you need everything selected to be able to do this. So you can actually just have a certain section repeat if you only have one thing selected. But I can also do a template. So what do you think this could be used for? Maybe on the collar of a shirt. I can do this like this. And I can maybe do them a little bit bigger. And add in this design. Let's not keep the aspect ratio, see if that does anything fun. But you can take a design of flowers and make a template so it actually will follow the shape of a collar of a shirt or some other different shapes. You know, maybe you want to do something like this and you can do that on the bottom of a skirt. So, and you could have this then repeat and connect. So some pretty cool stuff that you can do with this program. My favorite is this circle template. As you can see, it does some really cool stuff. If I have flowers, I've been able to turn them into a wreath. And I can lower the amount of designs I have in here. Like I could do 4 repeats. I can change the angle. Change the offset. There's a lot of different things you can do to customize this. Just be careful if you're doing embroidery. This is an artwork at the moment, but if you are doing embroidery and these are all overlapped, it may be very thick. So you may need to remove the overlap stitches, which if I turn these into embroidery, oops, all you have to do that is right click on them and hit remove overlap stitches. So it's pretty easy to do, but just remember to do that before you stitch it out. So after that, we have our font play. Font play is really great because you can test different fonts. I can do a custom saying. Like, I'm gonna write Chelsea is awesome because, come on, that's just a fact. And I can click on a font and see what it looks like, and it'll give me a whole preview in the screen. So if I'm not sure which font I wanna use, I can go through and test each one. And when I find the one that I like the best, I can hit import on the bottom of the screen and bring it right in. I can also go in here, instead of going through all fonts, instead of embroidery, I can go into Truetype and do the same thing. And it's going to show me in here what the Truetype fonts look like as well. So you can preview. When I am organized enough to remember to use that button, it's really nice. The next button is our color play. So this one is really fun. As soon as it loads, there it goes. And what I can do is actually go in here and randomize, which means it's going to apply different colors to my design. So maybe I'm not sure what colors I want to do these stars. Maybe I want to lighten them or darken them. I can really change what I want to do and kind of get some ideas. It's just a lot of fun. You know, like that's actually kind of pretty. Maybe I'll lighten it up and then there's a nice pastel look for a kid's room. And then it'll automatically change my colors that I have over here. This You Design It is something that comes next. You come with one design built in of the monsters, but what it is you pick a body and you can add little things to it and kind of create, you know, a fun, ridiculous design right on your screen. There are ones you can purchase that have trains, there's a clothesline, and there's a bunch of different ones besides just this monster. You can even do a randomizer, which will randomly put these together. But if you have little ones or grandkids that you know, want to help you design embroidery, this You Design It is a great way for them to play. After that, we have Wordplay. Wordplay is a lot of fun. I've used it before for like making cushions and things like that. You pick out your design. Let's say, let's do a bird. And I can write words in here like spring, chirp, seed, happy. If you want to have it capitalized, make sure to do that. I'm horrible at doing that. I could choose the font. Let's choose Christina because that's a nice one. I could choose the max scale. I can have any angle unless I want them to all be straight. In this case, I want them to be kind of crazy. I can also have the outside shape be artwork or a steel stitch, so it'll actually keep that outside shape. I like doing the steel stitch for this, and hit generate. It takes a moment to run through, and then it's going to add all those fonts to the inside of the shape and make the outside into a steel stitch, which is a satin stitch essentially. And I could put this on a frame, or not on a frame, but in fabric framed, or on a cushion, a shirt, back of a jacket, whatever you'd like. It makes a great gift, and it's a very simple, quick thing to create. I'll just give it a moment to load so you can see what it looks like. I've also gone in here and done this and then gone after and changed the font on each individual font to make it really unique. You can also do that afterwards. And it also will change the colors around. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do one of these designs and then go into that color play and then have it pick a different shade and kind of, you know, do some fun stuff with the colors. And there it goes. This is a smaller design. It's literally only, you know, 2 by 3. So it would probably look better if it was bigger. But I can always change that and regenerate if I wanted to. But this gives you kind of an idea of what it does. I would recommend a big, like 8 by 8. Our Save to Sew, if you are very, very new at using this program or new at embroidery in general, you can click Save to Sew. We'll say baby onesie, sure. I'm gonna hit next. And what it does is it actually recommends what type of stabilizer to use and gives you videos and product information. So let's say, I'm gonna go back, you know, like a baby onesie, for an example, is kind of a difficult material, but maybe a boiled wool, how would you embroider that? You can hit next, and it'll tell you, yep, you definitely need to fuse some stabilizer, hoop the item. In my experience, boiled wool doesn't necessarily like to hoop, so you may have to use a sticky stabilizer too, but always use a topping as well. So it'll go over this and give you kind of an idea of how to do it. So whenever you have a question, and let's say it's 3 in the morning and you want to embroider, you can always ask the Save to Sew what stabilizer it recommends and try it with a scrap piece first. If you find that doesn't work, you can always check out their forums for more information about the stabilizers. But usually, this system works pretty well, unless you couldn't hoop up the boiled wool. It depends on how heavy your wool is. Now, at the moment, my name drop isn't opened, but what this is if you have a logo and you have a name underneath. So I'm going to add a quick name. I can click this name drop, and it's going to leave the same logo, and I can actually add in a bunch of names. And I can do, let's say, you know, the local Lions Club needs their logo with a bunch of names underneath. It's going to automatically center it the way you have it laid out on your screen and change the text to be whatever text you write below it. And I can even hit preview if I want to know what it looks like and see exactly the way I have it laid out on my screen currently. And then it'll save it all to whatever input directory you give it. So your documents, or maybe you put up a special folder for that, and it'll save it. So all you got to do is just put all those in a USB, plug them into your machine, and stitch each out. So if you're doing a bunch of, you know, maybe it's a family logo and you're doing all your family members' names, really easy. So name drop is great. After that, we have our split wizard. This is surprisingly not as scary as it sounds. I have actually used this a lot. I had a lady during this quarantine ask me to design her and embroider a Celtic knot tablecloth, which sounds awful when you say that out loud. But I had a Anita Good Design Celtic knot quilt design. I opened that up, designed the 46 by 46 inch tablecloth in this program, and hit split design with my largest hoop on the luminaire. And I think it was 16 or 18 rehoopings. But when you do a split design, like this one, I don't know if it's going to show me because it's rather small. Oh, okay. It's going to have a slight overlap, and it stitches a little straight line. You line up that straight line, it stitches another line over it, and you keep just doing this, repeating, and it does line up. It takes a little practice, so I would try on some smaller things if you do have to do a split project. But it is something you can do. I've even done split applique on this before. There is a gentleman in Willimantic who's a Vietnam veteran, and he wanted the country of Vietnam put on the back of his jacket. And it was a big design, and I had to split it, and it worked. So definitely try the split design. It's great. And here's our new photo stitch. So let's go through this together. This is new. If you've not updated Floriani yet, the update came out yesterday, late evening. It is brandy new. So let's go. All right, I have, nope, not in here. These are from our museum display. I'm gonna pick out a quick picture. Hold on, I gotta find a picture first. All right, here we go. I got a Little Mermaid one. That'll work, good enough. So we find our image. This is telling me the final size. I would not do these small. I would try to make them a little bit bigger if you can. The shape is a box, although you could do a cropped shape around it. So I could do a heart if I wanted to. And that means there's gonna be no stitches outside of that heart. That's what that mesh means. So let's leave it the heart and see what it does. I'm gonna hit next. And then it turns it into the thread. Now, this has the max amount of threads. That means color changes. So I usually set this to be about 10. And I found that most designs do not have past 10 colors. Stitch length is a 3.5. If you lower the stitch length a little bit, it will make it more detailed. I'm assuming the lower the quality, lower number the quality, the lower number it is. Let's see what that looks like. So, you know, if you look close at this, this is a small design. It does all these weird squiggly stitches. And if you look close at that picture I showed you, it is also a lot of squiggly stitches. That's what makes this photo stitch. So it looks really weird when you're close up, but if you step back, you'll see the whole image. And if I go into 3D view here, oops, there it goes. It looks a little bit better. Now this isn't the best photo. One thing when you are doing photo stitches is you want to make sure that the photo has good contrast, is clear. It's something that you want to play around with. If I hit finish, it would have loaded it onto the screen, but I did not. All right, next we have distortion. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. I found the sphere is the coolest thing in distortion, but it takes your design and adds some cool effects to it. So I've done this before where I've had Christmas balls hanging on a tree, took some other designs, add this sphere effect, and put them into the Christmas balls to make them look like they actually were three-dimensional. The rest of these, I call them drunk stitching because they look kind of crazy. But you can play with them. It is fun to play with. One of my favorite buttons is our fit to hoop. So I do not know what hoop size. Looks like I have a 4x4 at the moment. But let's say, if I come over to my screen down here, I can select my hoop. And yes, they are in millimeters. But let's say I'm doing a 8x12, which is 180 millimeters by 300. Remember, 4 inches is 100 millimeters. I'm gonna hit OK. And then I can hit my fit to hoop button and boom, it should fill up my whole hoop. And that'll stitch out as big as it can in that hoop size. So this is great if you want your quilt block to fit specifically into that hoop size. All right. So some of these other buttons here, duplicate is a copy of the whole selection, which is kind of the same idea as a copy paste. This create outline is really helpful. If you wanted to, you can do like almost an echo stitch, but you can also use this to create a direct outline around the outside of the design. If I put in 1 ripples and 0 spacing, it's hard to tell, but I believe, of course it's in white. Let's change this to black. There we go. It just did perfect little star outlines using that outline key. So if I wanted to add in a satin stitch around the outside of these, I could use that outline key to do so. So this is a great way to add that outline. I use the outline key a lot when I'm doing lettering and want it to be applique, or maybe I want to add a stitch around the outside to give it some dimension. That's what that key is. Contour, I don't remember if it's specific to, I don't remember. Let's see what happens. I don't remember if this is only an MTQ or MDQ, but it's supposed to kind of change your corner type. Your sequence and color sort and all of these, the one that I mostly use is color sort. So as an example, let's say I have, I'm gonna copy and paste these and throw some more stars on here. Now, what's gonna happen is it's gonna skip from, white to blue to yellow to red to white to blue to yellow, maybe to the orange or whatever color order it is. It's not sorted by color at this point. So I'd have to keep switching around to the same colors. If I hit color sort, it reduced it to 3 colors, and now it'll only stitch, this color together, all the whites together, all the yellows together, etc. So it'll organize it, and if it's overlapping, it will not put them together. So don't worry if it's overlapping. Maybe like an applique design where, it has red for this and blue for that. It'll put all the red tack down stitches together and all the blue placement stitches together, but it won't put them out of order. So, you can always check on that too by just scrolling in your sequence view and make sure they're still in order. After that, we have our auto baste. It's the same idea as what's built into your machine. You click that, it adds a basting stitch around your design. These are for grouping and ungrouping. So if I have a bunch of designs, I can group them together, or I can ungroup them. If I group something together of the same color, it will stitch together. So maybe you want to do that because you have 2 blues or 2 reds. You can always group them together. These designs on my screen are for MTQ users only, which we'll go over in a future My Total Quilter class. I think these are 2. I don't remember if these placement marks and cut preview are on Floriani. It's hard to remember now that everything's all together. Align. This is one of my favorite buttons. I can go here and I can align all my shapes to one direction. I can have them all lined up. That looks awful. I can also center them all. I can center to rulers where they all pile on top of each other. Oh, well, center to rulers moves the whole thing to the center of my screen, which is handy. The last center, which just says center objects, will pile them all on top of each other. So I have a pile of stars, which I guess there are worse problems to have. But a lot of times I'll use that center to ruler on a specific design part because maybe, you know, I want these here to be centered on my screen. So I can click this and hit that center to ruler. And there, look, it's centered back on top of the other design I had, which is great because I wanted to do that, but, you know, couldn't. You know, very hard to manually center that. I'm just going to delete these other stars here. So that's one way to get things to center on top of each other. The next one is if you have multiple objects. I can use this to align multiple objects to each other. So I can distribute them in different methods. And then of course we have our mirror. We can mirror horizontally, vertically, and rotate. Now that finishes all that Floriani has on the top section. These next ones on my screen are all MTQ. On the left, however, we have some very important buttons. The first one is our selection tool. So that is if we need to select something. That's our pink arrow. This is our lasso. So if I wanted to just select a certain item, I can attempt to lasso it and right click. And I did a horrible job at it because these are pretty close. Let's try this one. Nope. I'm not a good cowboy. So I apologize, guys. Come on. Well, there we go. So if you are able to lasso around a specific object, so if you have it, like usually you can left click and drag, but if you have an odd shape that's kind of in the middle, you may need to use the lasso. Although usually if you only select a section of your other shapes, it won't select them. My favorite key is below that, the shape tool. So if I have something selected, I can go into the shape tool. And there's my pink little lines, and I can make this star look crazy if I wanted to. It's a supernova now. And I can go in here and I can add points, I can change the shape of them. And this is something that I will be doing in a future class. I'm hoping to start doing our Floriani classes once a month again, and we'll be going over how to use that shape tool in a class. I'm gonna hit undo. That's a crazy star. All right, so that knife tool, one of you guys asked about that. Let me get to, I'm gonna change this to black here so you can see it a little bit more. If I wanted to split something, I can use this knife to actually draw from one point to another. I left click on those 2 points and then right click to finalize, and it will split my star. So there we go. And if I wanted to, I can click on just the bottom half of the star and see it even closes those shapes. So I could do this and add in the name like I showed you guys earlier in between this star. I'm gonna rotate this a little bit so you guys can see them a little bit better. But I can split a lot of things and even take them out. So if I know I needed to split a design and remove a section, that's another way to do it if there's lines there. But there we go. So that's that knife key. This button here, the stitch tool, I'm not going to go into it at the moment, but this is to show you individual stitches that you can edit. One of the big problems is if you do go in there and you edit stitches, Many times you can't go back in and change the density or other things like that because now you've changed the overall properties. So this is more for advanced editing. So if you guys are new with this program, you'll get there, but don't mess with this just yet. Our magnifying glass I went into, you can double click to zoom in. You can also just click on it and zoom. Just make sure when you're done to go back to your selection key, otherwise you'll keep zooming. Your ruler. Maybe I want to know exactly how tall the star is. I left click and drag, and it's 2.24 inches. And it'll, if you notice, it says tip, use fill. Huh, so I guess it's telling us in this case what it recommends, which is true. So if I measure a little tiny section of the stitch, it'll let me know if it's too big or not for satin or a fill. If you notice it gets past that 0.3 inches, it'll ask you to use a fill over a satin stitch because of the reason we talked about previously, where a satin stitch could get ripped out. 3D shows you a 3D image of what your stitch will look like. We have an import vector art. I also can just use file open and open vector art that way. I believe this block line is for quilters only, for total quilter owners. The backdrop tool we did talk about, the grid. We can remove our grid. We can make our grid come back. So with that key, if you decide that that grid is really distracting and you want it removed for just a moment, you can click that, click it again, it comes back. Cutting mat. Apparently there are two squirrels in front of me that are murdering each other. So the cutting mat, this is, I don't remember if this is on all Floriani programs or if you just own certain programs, but it'll give you a preview of a cutting mat if you wanted to work with an SVG file and load that into your scan and cut. There's also your hoop and your select hoop, which we did go over a little bit. Show stitches, if you click that, it will actually not show you stitches. So I usually leave that on to a point. Stitch points is something that will actually show you little tiny black dots on every single individual stitch point. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I find this distracting. As you can see, it's kind of weird, but it's showing you every point the needle is going to go in and out. So if you're curious what that looks like, that's what it looks like. I'm going to turn that off. Our close shape, I showed you a little bit before. That's if you're drawing, it'll automatically connect your shape. Toggle view backdrop is to remove that backdrop. Ghost is if you want to take a selection and turn it into a ghost, which means you cannot see it. So maybe you want to edit a design part that's behind another stitch. You can ghost it, or you can click on this little eyeball here, which will also make it temporarily go away. And then last is our backdrop color. The backdrop color is actually really cool because I can click fabric. And let's say I have a picture of fabric I want to use. You can actually scan in your fabric, save it to your computer, and find it here. Let's say, I don't know if I actually have anything that would work, but you could go into your computer, you saved it under pictures, and open up the fabric that you scanned in with your scanner or took a picture of with your cell phone and put it as your background so you can see exactly what your design is going to look like on your fabric. There we go. So there's a couple cool features with that. So for the bottom here, I'm gonna get rid of my design and get rid of my hoop for a moment. And let's put in a simple circle. Now when I'm drawing a shape, if I hold down Control, it actually will allow me to draw a perfect circle. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's say I want to take this circle and I want it to be a run stitch. That's pretty easy. That's that first button. And it'll just do a single run. I can go into my properties, do a double run, motif, crazy quilting and motifs. Those two last ones that you see on my screen, those are again if you only have total quilter. But I can do a double run in this if I'd like, or a single run. I can click motif in here, or I can click run motif right on the bottom of my screen. And there are a crazy amount of motifs that you can choose from. You can change the pattern size or spacing. So I just added a little spacing. Let's add some more spacing. There we go. So I can do some really nice custom designs with just this motif stitch. After that is our steel. Steel stitch is the same idea as what you would normally refer to as a satin stitch. But in this case, a satin stitch fills up an entire shape, whereas steel just does the outside. So that's our steel. I can change the width and the density. And I can even do underlay, but these are things that we are going to go over in a future class. After that is our steel run. This is cool. It may be hard to see on mine. I'm going to see if I can change the color of the steel run so you can see. Maybe a lighter color. There we go. So it does a satin stitch with a little run on top of it. It's very decorative and really nice if you ask me. So kind of makes it a little fancier. Now we're back to our artwork. So a lot of these aren't going to work on this particular style of design, but I'm going to show you, like these are really pretty, but you need a smaller design for. I'm going to show you the radial. So if I close in on this, you'll see that the radial starts at the center and explodes out. I use these for stars and hearts quite often because it looks really cool. And you can change the density. Oh, did I have a question?
No, I just said that's cool.
Oh, okay. It is. The regular satin stitch, auto satin, in this case is probably not going to look nice. It's okay. Because it's too big. But the auto satin is really nice when you have scroll work or fancier detailed designs. It'll automatically curve the satin to the shape of your design. Now into our happy little stars, we have a solid fill. Come on. Why is it grayed out? All right, I'm just gonna redraw a shape then.
My power just came on.
I'm jealous. So we're all coming over your house. All right, so this is a regular pattern, but something to keep in mind with using the fills, you don't need to do just a regular standard pattern. My favorite, for example, is Cornrow 2. And see how it does this almost a stripe? There's some really cool patterns just in your standard pattern selection. But we can also go from fill type standard into fancy. And you can also click, of course, the fancy fill star. And I can click on numerous different fills, and they do some incredible designs. There's one in here that looks like water, and I made a little patch that had a rubber duck, and I made the rubber duck look like he had feathers, and the water looked like waves. And it's pretty easy to do that using this program. So, you know, it's something, and we can also pick the stitch length, make it smaller. You know, there's a lot you can do. Our motif fills does an open stitch type. And this is a small design, so it's a little hard to tell. But I can also change my pattern size down. Way down, as you can tell. Let's bring this to a 7. And I can even do mixed patterns and do a couple different types of fills mixed together, giving it a really nice lace effect. I've used this as background designs for quilting because you can make the patterns pretty large and it'll do like a background quilt before you put your embroidery design on. So you can make a full quilt block right in your machine. After that, we do have a few others. The gradient fill, it's a little complicated to get to work right. So I'm gonna skip over that today, and a lot of your color blends in the waves. But a lot of these, you just add different colors and it overlaps them in a way where it looks like it changes. Like a regular gradient does it straight lines, the wave has the wave to it. So you can take a fill design and add a slight gradient to it, and it looks pretty cool. Texture, I think that one's only an MTQ. These guys are MTQ only, which brings us to our embossing and our applique. Embossing is, there we go. Embossing is kind of like, I guess, the opposite of applique. It's like a reverse applique. from what I understand. I have personally not done a lot of embossing. An applique, as you guys know, whew, that is a tiny circle. It's got a huge satin stitch. Applique has, I'm gonna close my properties for a moment to show you. Actually, before I do that, in applique, I can choose satin. I can choose a blanket stitch, or even a fancy motif design to do my applique with. So I'm gonna do this little diamond one, which looks really cool. And what I'm gonna do is I can actually go into my applique here, and I have my placement stitch, my tack down stitch, and then my final decorative stitch. So it puts all of those in your applique for you. Applique, in my opinion, is one of the easier things to design, so I suggest starting there to make your own custom cute applique. We're gonna get rid of my sunshine. After that, you also have a stipple. I find the stipple on here is not perfectly clean and smooth, although you could smooth up some of those, but I don't use the stipple that often. It is also very small because I have a very small design on here. So I could make this a little bigger so you guys get a better idea. But that's a stipple. And I can also do a cross stitch. Now this is really fun to do cross stitch because you can do cross stitch letters and put them on aprons and make kind of like those 1950s throwback aprons. I'm not a cross stitcher. It's like one of the few fiber related arts that I've not touched and I have no plans to. So it's nice to be able to do that on my embroidery machine. Whew, all right, so some of the few things I did not go over quickly is our color bar. I have this set right now to Floriani Poly, but I can click this tiny little select thread chart and I can select any of these different thread companies that I want to use. New to the program is also the match palette. So I can go from Floriani to Gutermann and it will automatically change the thread number. The nice thing about this is I can know, let's say I bought a design and it comes with a thread chart for Madeira or something like that. I can take it, open it up, and change it right to Floriani. So that way I know what colors to use. And then go into that print and print off my thread chart. So it's pretty nice. Some of the other things I did not go over with is, of course, our file. A lot of these icons are things we went over. But I can open and save. Merge design is if you want to open up a design on the same screen as one you already have open. I can import artwork. I can load a backdrop, use my scanner, things like that. Edit, again, we went over most of those icons already that are already on the screen. View, same idea, although you can zoom manually here. These are all things that are on your screen still. Same thing with tools, except for these editors and creators. These are something we're going to go over in a future class of how to make your own fonts. For an example, we're going to do a Floriani class on all fonts. You can import presets. You can do a fancy pattern editor. You can actually load and save patterns into here. Oh, we have a question. The August 2020 release date, is this for Floriani?
Yes.
Okay. It was supposed to be yesterday evening. I was able to access it this morning. So if you go on the My Club and go on their homepage, there should be a link. Or if you guys can't find it, email me at schillersontheweb@gmail.com and I will forward you guys the letter that I got, the email that has a link directly to the new version.
Okay, because I was done there. I went there before your webinar and I didn't see it. So it still had the old date, the old version and my old date.
Yeah, if I go from Floriani to My Club to check for updates, it doesn't bring me to the right screen. But if you go to the home page, go back into Floriani and click updates, it should bring you there.
Okay. All right,
but again, if you guys have any trouble, I'll forward you the link in email.
Okay.
It was hard for me to find too. Your toolbars, if you accidentally close any of these toolbars, you can always click them back on here. Oh, that's something I didn't show you guys either. We'll go back into a second. So help has all your manuals. Another link to Floriani Club. The Floriani Today is that pop-up when you first open. Support ticket is if you have problems. License activator is where you put your code. So if you purchase the lettering software, the Rainbow, or any of the other stuff to add on, you'll add it through the license activator. You can also check for updates or hit About. About tells you what build you're on. So you want to be at 3718 at some point. I believe that's the newest one, the one that just released. And lastly, I didn't show you guys these, our browser library and designs. So if you, it looks like none of mine are there. If you had downloaded any of, oh, you know what? I have absolutely none of Floriani's free designs because this is a new computer. But if you go onto Floriani's Club, make sure you register if you have the program. You can download free designs and download every design that has ever existed. It'll pop up under your library. Mine, as you can see, is blank. That's because I have a new computer and haven't transferred those designs over yet. But I could click flowers anyway and open up designs, and it'll show me the 2 that it has available. And then I can just left click and drag in. So you can get a ton of free designs, and that's how you open them up easily. So definitely look that up if you've not done that yet. All right, so I think I've gone through everything. And if you guys are, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna accept questions. So if you guys are at a point where you are not totally overwhelmed, please feel free to ask some questions. I know I'm gonna need to drink some water after this. Whew. Any questions?
I have a question.
Chelsea, I'll just make a comment since I don't have this program, but I do have Designer's Gallery, which I used to use all the time. There are a lot of things, a lot of components about using it that are pretty much the same. This is much more extensive, but you know, I was happy to see that some of it is still the same.
Yes, so the other thing with Designer's Gallery is as of January 1st of 2020, it is no longer supported by BabyLock.
Okay.
So they stopped actually making it. They don't even allow training for us anymore for the educators. So it's gone. So
okay.
you're probably going to be stuck upgrading at some point in the next year.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure. But you know, it's sort of like frustrating because it's like all of these programs that eventually, you know, and if, you know, then your computer is not good enough for the program, and you got to get a new computer. It's like, you know, so.
The nice thing about Floriani is that Floriani actually does give you free updates. Like this update they just did, it's free. You don't have to worry about going out and buying a new program. Like no offense to P Design 11 and you know all the P designs, but every couple of years they come out with a new one and that old one is not longer supported and you have to buy the new one. Right. I'm lazy. If I can just buy one program and update it, I'm good with that. I hate having to learn a new program, which I mean I have to do anyway so I can teach you guys. But yeah, you know, I like Floriani. I bought it 5 years ago when I first started at the store, and I've not had to purchase anything since.
That's cool. Yeah, that's nice to know. You know, hopefully it continues that way.
Well, I think what they've been doing is doing those add-ons so they can kind of get away with not providing everything for free. But the add-ons are, you know, you don't necessarily need it. You know, maybe you don't want to do rainbow thread. I mean, I do because that's exciting, but you know, I don't necessarily need all these other programs. So you can pick and choose and build your own custom Floriani.
So when did you say, so it's not supported, Designer's Gallery is not supported by teachers or BabyLock, but if you had the program, it would still work though, right?
Technically, as Windows adds updates, programs have to release drivers so they still work. Designer's Gallery, for example, Studio 3 was stopped supported a couple weeks ago, so it did not work on Windows 10 computers. So you may find that eventually it may not work anymore.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I had 5D and I spent $1,300 on it and I can't use it now.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's hard with programs, so you want to find one that is going to give you free updates. I also went from Studio 3 to My Design Album, which is another Floriani program, and I highly recommend that for sorting your files. Although my computer died and I never updated or saved any of my organization, so now I have to redo it all with my new computer.
Yeah. I always say I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I am going to do it eventually. I'm going to organize all my photos. I'm going to organize all this. And, you know, here I am still in the same boat, you know. But,
yeah.
Oh, well. Well, that's good to know about Designer's Gallery. I haven't really embroidered in several years now. It's probably been, you know, a good 4 years. I mean, I've done some things that I already had saved, you know, but yeah, I wanted to get back into it. So that's why I thought this would be a good opportunity to see what's out there.
My children have used my Luminaire more than I have recently.
Oh, really?
Well, my 2 sons actually have been doing the Kimberbell mask pattern. It's free and you can make masks right in the hoop. And between the 2 of them, I think they donated over 100 masks across the town.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they used it more than I have. But hey, you know, it's a pandemic, so either, you know, whatever. No one's judging what you do or don't.
I'm going to look it up because I just made a bunch of masks. I mean, I've been making masks all along, but I just had some additional requests, you know, like repeat requests. Let's put it that way. You know, people have been wearing masks for a while. Now they want something different. They want to, you know, they want to change them up. It's like clothes, I guess.
That's true. All right, anyone, if there's no questions specifically related to the program, I'm actually going to stop recording there. It doesn't mean no more questions, but since we're loading this up onto YouTube, I wanted to, you know, I'm going to stop it now.